What you trying to do for real? For real.
Cosmic psychedelic funk is what I came to do.
What's up, everybody? Yours truly, Takara Nicole, aka the Identity Architect, coming at you for another episode of What's the Real Deal with Takara Nicole. So, maybe this may be your first time catching me, and so excited that you're here, but more excited that you are able to really get the real deal. So I call this What's the Real Deal with Takara Nicole, and I interview phenomenal people because we see the people, we might interact with them, but we don't know the story of why they do what they do. So on this show, we're actually able to get the real deal. And so today, you guys are in for a treat. And yep, I say that every episode because it is a treat. You guys are able to connect with amazing people here in Omaha, Nebraska. And guess what? If you're watching this from somewhere else, you now know someone in Omaha, Nebraska that is doing amazing things, and they might shove you into doing something amazing by just tuning into this show. So today, tomorrow, whenever you're catching this, we have someone phenomenal, and you're gonna hear that word throughout this show. Phenomenal. We have the one and the only CJ Jackson. What's up, sis?
What's up, girl? I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
You are so welcome.
I'm honored.
Oh.
I'm honored to be.
I'm honored we get to have a conversation. Listen,
because you're my girl.
Yes.
You're my girl. You're my girl. And you have such a beautiful spirit.
Thank
such
you.
a welcoming spirit. And I'm excited to jump into this because we're about to have a good time.
We are. And so you guys are going to have a little over 20 some odd minutes to get the real deal with CJ Jackson. And so tell the people that are viewing this show a little bit about who you are.
Absolutely. So, as Takara said, my name is CJ Jackson, and I am the proud owner and founder of the Phenomenal Woman Academy. And at the Phenomenal Woman Academy, we work with women and girls to empower them with bold confidence, because we all need that in order to get through life. And we do that through a variety of ways. And it's really set on our three pillars. One is self-worth, the second one is self-esteem, and the third one is self-confidence. And so we work with a lot of women and girls in order to transition them over into that bold confidence. And that's really important. And we do that through a variety of ways. And one of it is personal and professional development with our women, especially career advancement and how to be a leader and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Because how you are internally shows up in your workplace and your career as well. And then with our young ladies, it's really around that self-esteem building and around that youth leadership training. And how can you be a leader at your young age, and how do you manage what I call your triplets, those three things I mentioned: self-worth, self-esteem, and self-confidence, so that they don't manage you.
Ooh, yes. You said a whole lot, and I'm hoping that people are really paying attention to all that you just shared. And so I'm gonna take this personal. There was a lot of times where I struggle with, self-love and self-confidence and just self-worth, because those are things that we're not taught growing up. Those are not things that someone sits down and says, hey, we're going to talk about self-love and what does this look like and how to build that and what to do. And as we grow up and, get older and we hear these things, immediately people think self-love is getting your hair done, getting your nails done, getting a mani, getting a pedi, getting, that's a part of, taking care of yourself. So someone that may need a little more of a deeper dive into those pillars, can you explain a little bit more? Self-love, self-worth, and
self-worth, self-esteem, and self-confidence.
Boom. So share a little bit about those.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we really have to think about our beginnings and our foundation, because foundation is critical.
Absolutely.
And it's just like a building. Whenever you go to build, if you think about any architect or engineer who needs to go set up a building, you have to start with a strong foundation. And you really have to assess a couple of things when you want to lay a foundation from a construction standpoint. Now, I by no means have ever worked in construction, but soil conditions, the water, and just making sure that you understand how to lay that foundation so it doesn't have cracks in it.
Yeah.
And for a lot of us, especially, we can't give what we don't have, and we can't get from people what they don't have.
Right.
And so it really starts with our mothers and our grandmothers and our aunts around us. And a lot of them are struggling with it. So they cannot in turn help us build that because they have yet to build it in themselves. And so it's really critical that we understand the differences between the three things. And for self-worth, when I'm working with women and girls, the first thing that I really try to get people to understand is with self-worth is you're good enough. Your life is worth living. You deserve to be in the land of the living, and your life has meaning first for you, purpose first for you, then for your family and friends, then the community around you, then the world around you.
Yeah.
And when it comes to self-esteem, it's really understanding that your self-esteem is how you feel about yourself when you are by yourself. Not when you are around other people, not what other people say about you, but how does CJ feel about CJ when I have to sit by myself? Do I like myself? Do I love myself? How do I feel about my body, that body image stuff? How do I feel about the way that I think?
Yeah.
How do I also deal with some maybe the trauma that I've experienced in life, whether through childhood, relationships, or other?
Man.
And just really understanding that your self-esteem does not come from some external thing.
Yeah.
It really comes from internal. Now, it can be impacted by external thing,
Right.
but it's really internally driven. And then understanding that self-confidence is simply you knowing, understanding, and trusting in your gifts, your talents, your skills, and abilities. And so when you are working with those set of definitions, it gives you something to work from, a foundation to stand upon, and we start with each section. And I always tell people, because people always want to jump to confidence, people always want to jump to self-esteem. And I say, no, we're going to start with the bottom. The foundation is self-worth. Because if you don't have self-worth, the other two don't even matter. Because you don't believe your life is worth living.
Right.
You don't believe your life has something to give.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to start with the foundation. And then your first floor is what I call your self-esteem. And then all the extra stuff is your confidence. So it's kind of like a house.
Wow. Wow. I pray that you guys that are watching this show, you're going to have to catch this on Roku or Apple, Fire, Amazon, many times, or go back to YouTube and watch this. She dropped a lot of nuggets, and I appreciate the work that you do in this community and beyond. There's a lot of us out here that strive to do this and do that, and we wrestle with those three pillars more than we admit.
Yes, absolutely.
And we are out here, a lot of us, and I can say this, I was out here for a long time with a mask, and I didn't want people to know that I was struggling with my self-worth, my self-esteem, my confidence. As a DV survivor, you know, my abuser, he stripped that away from me, and I had to learn how to even look at myself in the mirror long enough to even say that I was beautiful, because he stripped that away from me. And so when you talk about all of the things that we go through as women, and you mention the foundation, which it starts at home, and we hear that so much, yet in these days and times, it's more of a cliche. It's no longer utilized as the foundation within our homes for whatever reasons. And so you are needed in the community to be able to be the pillar for a lot of young girls to actually, and their moms, because a lot of times the transformation is through their children. So they're watching their children go through this evolution, this rebirthing, and it's because of the work that you're doing with their child. And sometimes they can't associate the two, but the work that you do is so major. And so just thank you for that. I can appreciate the work that you do from my history of what I've gone through. And if anybody has gone through anything, any kind of trauma, lack of support in the home from your parents, you know, trying to figure out life on your own, because your parents didn't have it together, and there's no one to blame. It is what it is.
Yes.
And so, taking those tools to really help yourself to rebuild. And so, I see you as an architect, one who really, you talk about foundation. I mean, yeah. And so, I see you as an architect. You help build these women and these girls, and it's no easy work. And so, I know for me, why I do what I do, right? So what was that aha moment, that light bulb moment where you were like, all right, I gotta start this academy? What was that like for you?
Well, it's really personal for me. A lot of people, I get compliments like, you're so confident, CJ, when you come into a meeting room, the way that you run it, the way that you show up, the way that you engage, you just seem like you're always confident. And I never want to paint a false picture.
Right.
And I always tell people, I believe that I'm confident on most days, but not all days. But this is 25 years of refinement. I said that before the show got started.
Right.
And it's because my childhood set me up in a way to experience struggle. And it wasn't intentional.
Right.
But it is what it is.
Indeed.
And so I grew up in a family where there was domestic violence. And so my parents were actually married for 25 years. And I had my mom on my podcast, Unlocking Your Confidence with Coach CJ. And she talked a little bit about it. And she ended up writing a book about it called Fear is Crippling, because fear literally is crippling. It will keep you from moving forward.
Indeed.
And I grew up watching my mother get physically abused by my father a lot when I was growing up. I mean, all the way through high school. And it really started to shape how I viewed relationships, how I viewed men.
Yeah.
And in the course of their marriage, we are also impacted when when you see your mother go through that, and you realize that your mom doesn't have self-esteem. She doesn't have the self-worth. She doesn't have the confidence for a variety of reasons, because she has her own story about how she grew up, right? So in the midst of all that happening, I also experienced molestation and being touched inappropriately and all this stuff, because there was so much going on. What it did was they were so engrafted in what their relationship was, it leaves room for things to happen because now you're not aware.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna tell my mom's story, but she's talked about this. She even talked about this on my podcast. She started drinking, and she started drinking so that when my father abused her, she wouldn't feel it as much. If I'm, if I've consumed alcohol so much that if he hits me, I won't feel it in that moment. I'll feel the next day, but not in that moment. And so, having to see that as well, and then just growing up in a family of women where a lot of the women have been physically abused, have been in physical relationships, domestic violence.
Yeah.
And so all of that really just tore away what could have been a strong foundation. So I grew up just feeling ugly and unwanted, and to the point where I didn't even want to look in the mirror when I walked past it. I would just avoid it. And I struggled with that for years. And for those who knew me, I ran track in high school here in Omaha, Nebraska at Burke High School, and I had a bunch of muscles. They always saw the strong sprinter on the track, and everyone just assumed you're physically strong, but on the inside, I was broken in so many pieces. I just felt so ugly.
Wow.
Inside and out.
Wow.
And I grew up just angry.
Wow.
And I wouldn't let my anger show.
Yeah.
It was more internal,
Right.
festered.
Yeah.
And so when I graduated and went to college, all those issues came to light. And they came to light in the most ugliest, explosive ways for me. And so fast forward, as I started working with girls, being a track coach, I started seeing some of those same things in girls that I was experiencing. And then also working in the technology space, some of the women being in a space that's mainly made of men, noticing that women weren't showing up to the table the same way that men were. And some of my female colleagues who were VPs and, you know, above, they weren't showing up the same way. And I'm like, girl, you are in the spot. Why are you not showing up this way?
What's up? What's
and
going
so I
on?
just started noticing things.
Oh my
and so
gosh.
I created a survey, and I just started surveying women because I started basically searching the internet for what is going on, and I couldn't find anything. Nothing resonated with me. I was like, what is this thing
That's how you know
that's
it's
going
God.
on? I said, I'm in all kind of journals. I'm researching everything. I'm in the library.
Right?
I couldn't find anything that resonated with me that made sense. And I said, there's something going on with women. What is it? And I just started praying, and I created this long survey. It was like 60 questions. And I started surveying women 25 at a time. And some women couldn't even finish the survey because they said, it's too much.
CJ, really?
It's too much. You're asking too in-depth questions.
Woo.
And I said, because I'm trying to understand, what are we experiencing here? And it boiled down to those three things. God dropped it in my spirit. It's these three things. And I call them the triplets because they're so similar. They look the same, but they act totally different, right? And so that's how I came up with that. And it really moved me to say, I see a gap that I can feel because of my own struggle. And to the point where I'm so familiar with it that if I talk to a woman for 10 minutes,
You can see.
I can tell. I can tell you're struggling. It's almost like a perfume, but a stinky one. Like I can smell it.
Wow.
That you are struggling with these things. And it's just very interesting. Yeah.
You know what? You said so much, and I can come aside so much of what you said. And so when I started the publishing company, God told me to merge the consulting company with the publishing company. And I immediately went to Google trying to figure it out. And God's like, you can stop.
Yes,
Just stop. I just, you know, I feel like I was like Kermit the Frog, that gift with Kermit the Frog, and just going all over the place and just typing. He was like, you could just stop. I'm about to give you the blueprint. And so that is an example of how God uses everything that we have gone through for somebody else. And a lot of times we feel that when we're going through these things that it's personal. It's not.
Oh
it's
my
such,
gosh.
it's so much bigger than that. And so I commend you for continuing to press through, because some people would have been like, skirt, that's too much, extra stage left, I'm not doing that. I done been through all this. I'm not about to do that either.
Oh, I had my moments.
Oh, honey, I'm sure you did.
I was like, you want me to expose myself? Like what?
What? Like, we ain't doing that.
I have to tell people this story.
Right.
Like, that's embarrassing. There's guilt, there's shame, there's a bunch of stuff when you've gone through trauma.
Yeah.
And I had to get over that. I had to get over that because my process is meant to help other people heal. And I had to realize that and stop hating my process.
Yeah.
God really had to work with me on that. I'm like, why this? You could have did this differently, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And if I had not gone through what I went through, I would not be in a position to help women and young girls the way that I can.
Yeah, yeah. That's so powerful, and for so many reasons. And what I love about this story of yours is that you can sit here and share it with thousands upon thousands of people and not feel that sting. And that's called process. You know, God allows for us to go through this process to be able to remove that sting and understand that He wants us to really, truly be used, and to use all of what we call baggage, some of it good, some of it bad, for the good of our purpose, and to accept what it is. And so, anybody who's watching this and have just meditate on what CJ is saying. So you're not lost, you're not crazy, you're not stupid, you're not dumb, you're not forgotten, you're not thrown away, you're not rejected, you're not abandoned. These things that you have gone through, for those of you that are believers of God, He's going to use it for your good. So hold on, hold tight, don't give up, because we have a CJ Jackson here who can tell you that it's going to work for your good. I mean, it is. We're going to have CJ back, right? I mean, there's so many more things that I'm sure that she can dive into what I love is that you have such a beautiful relationship with your mom that she can come on your podcast and share that story. And all I thought about was how in the African American community especially, we're taught to hold on to our trauma because what goes on in the house stays in the house.
Oh, yes.
We don't talk about what's going outside of this house. How dare you talk about my business outside of this house? And so I thank you for breaking that generational curse within the African American community and being so bold to create such an academy for these women of all walks of life to be able to come and get that healing so they can really own who God has created them to be. That's so beautiful. So there's so many reasons why I've had CJ come. And like I said, we're almost out of time, so she's going to have to come back. She has an amazing conference that's coming up here in October, and I want her to talk about this for a little bit, share how those of you who are watching this show can attend the conference, because as she just shared a snippet of her own story, imagine these speakers and everybody that's a part of this conference, how whatever they're going to say or the conversations or the networking that you're going to do at this conference are going to help you to really own those 3 pillars that she talked about even more. So tell us a little bit about your conference you have upcoming here in October.
Yeah, absolutely. So in October, we have the Phenomenal Woman Conference, and it's on October 7th, and it's going to be over at the Beardmore Event Center, which is over in Bellevue, Nebraska. And our theme this year is From Surviving to Thriving, Shift into Greatness. Because too many of us are stuck in survival mode. And when you are stuck in survival mode, you cannot thrive. Sometimes survival mode, it has its purpose. It gets you through, but you can't keep that forever, okay? And so we want to make that shift so that we can start being great at life. And it's so interesting because I picked that theme in my head, in my heart. God dropped it in my spirit, and I didn't tell anybody. And as I started talking with women, I kept hearing, I feel like I'm stuck in survival mode. It started popping up everywhere. And I'm like, hold up. God, you're funny. God is funny. Listen, God is a comedian.
Yeah, he is.
And I was like, okay, that's the theme. That's the theme this year. I know it is confirmed. And so we have an awesome lineup of women who are going to be a part of this conference. And we also have a whole high school side that's a part of the conference this year. So if you have, and I'll even say middle school, if you have a young lady who's at least 13, 14 and above, they need to be in attendance to this conference. It's going to be amazing. But if you want to register for the conference, excuse me, I don't know why you haven't gotten your ticket yet, but go to www.phenomenalwomanacademy.org. Again, that's www.phenomenalwomanacademy.org. And you can find all the conference information on there. You can see who all the speakers are, and you can register. And there's a promo code going on right now, Flash 2023, for 50% off the tickets. And we also have awards we're giving out. So we have Phenomenal Woman of the Year Award. We have a Game Changer Award, Inspiration Award, and Rising Star Awards for our young ladies. And so we really do have a fun-filled day packed. And then we have our awesome panelists and facilitators, which you're one of our facilitators. And I'm so excited to have you as part of the conference. And it's going to be pretty dope. It's going to be pretty dope.
I'm excited that, you know, your academy is growing so much that this is your 2nd annual conference. I definitely see this something where it's going to grow. You're going to do this conference more than once a year for sure. I see people flying in Omaha, Nebraska to be in the building because they're going to find out about what really takes place at this conference. And I'm really excited that you stepped out to create a conference. A lot of us think about the idea of creating something to that magnitude, and we let fear, you know, stop us in our tracks because, oh my God, this logistic and that logistic, and it's a lot. But she has such a phenomenal team that helps her. So I'm really excited about, you know, just the conference and all that CJ's doing. Please know she'll be back because you guys are going to have to hear about the conference and how it went. If you don't get your ticket, like, I'm going to need to see you guys. You need to get your ticket.
I'm telling you guys, it's going to be so fire. It's going to be so fire. And you know what? I am amazed at what God is doing, and I'm amazed that He chose me to use in this fashion.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes we're not thankful for how God uses us.
Yes.
You know, we question and we're like, why, God?
Yeah.
But I see a little bit of what God's doing. I can't see everything he's doing because I'm not him, but
Right.
I see a little bit of what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to understand more. And so I'm just thankful.
Well, I'll tell you, it's not by chance that you're wearing those butterfly earrings, because I really feel that God is taking you through those stages of really helping you to understand how he's making you soar in the season. And so I'm excited for you. But we have a couple minutes left. One of the things I really want to do is tell people how they can connect with you. Please, please, please.
Absolutely. So you can reach out to me on Facebook through the Phenomenal Woman Academy if you look that up. You can also follow me on Instagram at Confident Coach CJ. That's Confident Coach CJ. Or on TikTok at CM Coach CJ. So those are my handles.
And she's the real deal on TikTok. Like, I follow her. I mean, I love, she interacts with us and she checks us in love, and I'll be like, ooh, dang, CJ, like, for real.
It's all about growth. It's all about growth.
It is. And this is a woman who lives up to her purpose. When she talks about confidence, it's her jam. And so, real quick, we got about almost a minute left. What would you tell someone who is in that place called stuck, but knows that they are called and created to thrive? What would you say to them?
I would say take a step forward. All you gotta do is take a step. You can travel 1,000 miles by one step at a time. And if you can do that and stop thinking about the 1,000 miles and just take the first step, eventually when you look back, you'll see how far you've come. But we get so stuck on that first step. Just make the decision. As you say, what? Be trigger happy.
Be trigger happy. I'll be like, pull the trigger. And
Yes.
I'm from Chicago, and so I'll be like, ooh, let me back
Let's
that
just-
up.
Let's
Be
just
trigger
take the
happy.
decision. Take the first step. Take the first step and believe that God will send you what you need to meet you where you're at.
Yeah, and that's so key. And understanding that when we take that first step, there's more to take,
Yes.
and it gets easier. So listen, this has been another amazing episode of What's the Real Deal with Takara Nicole. Thank you so very much, Miss CJ Jackson.
Thank you. I'm humbled.
for being here and just really connecting with the people. So listen, y'all got to connect with CJ. If you are struggling in any of those 3 pillar areas, connect with CJ. Until then, I'm out. Peace out. Mwah. Love y'all.
What you trying to do for real? For real.
Cosmic psychedelic funk is what I came to do. Yep.